Welcome back to this edition of the Big East Rewind. I'm your host, Chuck Everson from Villanova, and my co-host, my buddy, my pal, and my point guard, my main man, Sonny Sparrow. How are you, Sonny?
Chuck, I'm great, man. We're dipping a little bit into the Providence waters again. This is cool. I
You
like
know
this.
what, Sonny? We're going to be delving into several waters today, because this guy represents two teams in the Big East.
He does.
The Georgetown Hoyas. We're going to talk a little Hoya Nation, and we're going to talk Provtown, Friartown, and the guest is not Ed Cooley. All right, so there you go. People right away would say, "Oh, you got Ed Cooley on." No, we don't. We went back in the archives to find this guy all the way from the D.C. area and the DMV, where all the ballers are from, Sonny. All
Sure
the ballers.
seems like it, man. Where was I in high school? I was just upstate New York. I didn't realize this. Holy cow!
So I remember playing against this guy, and
Me too.
we banged around a little bit in the post, Sonny. Back in the day. I don't remember at Georgetown. I wasn't there at Villanova yet when he was at Georgetown, but spent the year at Georgetown and then redshirted it, and then played his time at Providence College. And he's here with us today, my good buddy Ray Knight. How are you, Ray?
Great. Thank you for having me on. Good to see you guys after all these years.
Yeah,
And I like like what you guys are doing with your podcast.
Thank
Definitely
you very
great.
much.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate that. It's been a labor of love, as you know. We talked the last time we were, and I ran in. So for people that don't know, it was funny. I went to a Eagles Commanders game, Sonny, out in D.C. like you and I did.
Mhm.
We went back, and of course, I run into Big East brethren all over the place that day. Reggie was going to meet us there, so Reggie Williams was there, hanging with us. We had a big tailgate, and again, he refused to show off his cooking skills that he brags about so much, Sonny. So I did all the cooking again, but it worked out. I turn around, and your guy from Syracuse, Herm Hareed, is parked right behind us at the tailgate, and he played on Reggie's Dunbar team, so they were fast friends. We walk in to get an ice cream, and we run right smack dab into Ray, who happened to be working, with the Commanders in the.
All right, so
IT
so
department.
6'7", 6'8". Ray, you're 6'10".
6'10". Yep.
6'10", 7 foot. I guarantee people were just like,
Oh, we
like,
how many
what the
pictures did we
hell?
take, Ray?
It was quite a few people coming up asking us questions constantly. It was kind of difficult to have a conversation at times, but yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy. You would never know, Sonny. It's not easy.
Come on, you guys were like Taylor Swift, man. You guys had the paparazzi. Everybody was following you guys.
Listen, it was one thing if they said, "Oh, there's Ray Knight. Oh, there's Chuck Everson," but they were like, "Wow, you guys are big. Can I take a picture with you?"
Yeah.
So we can go home and talk about it at dinner. That's really what it was about, right?
Never asked us where we played or anything like that. It was just that we
Never
were
said anything.
giants.
Yeah, and then when
There
one
was a lot
person
of
takes a
humanity
picture,
there.
everybody wants to get a picture.
Exactly.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. We should have charged. We would have made it $5.
That's right. Create a buzz, man.
So let's kick this thing off, right? So you grew up in D.C. Talk about growing up in D.C. area and playing against all those great players in the parks and stuff out there.
Oh man, it was awesome. It's a lot different nowadays, but back then you could go to there were very specific places you would go where you knew all the players were. You basically cut your teeth on playing against, people like Adrian Dantley. Who else? Let me think. There's so many names that I can't remember. Like guys that went to like Tom Sluby went to Notre Dame. Cecil Rucker. Those guys, just guys who all Americans, that played at a very high level. Lynn Bias, just everybody.
Yeah, he was awesome. I mean, I got to play against him in high school too. At Coach
Right.
Massimino's camp, and he was good back when he was a kid. He was really good. So
Yeah.
you knew he had
Ray,
big. coming up.
Talk about what size were you? Were you always like one of the taller guys? Like talk about like, and when did you pick up the sport?
Late actually. I played, but it was just for fun, because all my friends played. But I was pretty normal height up until about the ninth grade. Or somewhere before that, the summer before the ninth grade. I went
Mhm.
from like 5'7" to the end of the ninth grade. I was 6'4". So
Whoa,
I
whoa! Your
shot
knees
up
I was
there.
okay?
for ninth grade. Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. Little painful, but I guess because I played sports pretty much from my younger years, the transition from the 5'7" to 6'4" was not as bad. Like I didn't feel awkward, like
Hmm.
in the sense that some people do when they grow like that. But yeah,
What
yeah.
was your what
But
was your true love then? Was it basketball? Was it football? What
well,
was
no,
it?
it actually started out as football.
Yeah, a lot of
Uh,
guys.
yeah, being here with the Washington Redskins, that was a big thing. But eventually started playing basketball, and I guess really started to get competitive with it, like in the ninth grade.
Hmm.
That was the first organized basketball that I played.
That require a change in positions.
Uh, not well, yeah, well, not really, because by the time the season rolled around, I was probably 6'2", 6'3", or something like that. So I was playing center in the ninth grade. Didn't really know what I was doing. Didn't have any training or anything like that. So it was just kind of running around, getting in the way of people or whatever. But eventually, after going to a couple of basketball camps and things like that, I started to learn, um, and develop
Hmm.
into a little bit better player.
So who recruited you? Talk about how you got to Georgetown first. How did that all come about? And was that something that you looked up to those guys? That was the local team that everybody wanted to be a part of, or was it something that made the most sense just for you personally at the time?
No. So what happened was when I went to high school in the 10th grade. I played JV on the team at Coolidge High School, Calvin Coolidge High School here in DC. And the basketball coach sent me to, or suggested to my parents that I go to basketball camp at Georgetown. And there, somehow I got recruited to go to St. Anthony's after the 10th grade. The coach at St. Anthony's was played for Thompson in high school, and then was his graduate assistant for a while after he graduated college. But he became the coach at St. Anthony's, and so he recruited me, and ended up going there in the 10th grade. And I'm sorry, in the 11th grade and 12th grade, and then in the 12th grade, Eshrick was the assistant coach in my high school.
Oh,
Oh
And
really?
wow.
yeah, yeah,
There's a connection. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So you could see some things developing there. I don't know whether it was by design or what, but yeah, definitely. That's what happened. And I was actually heavily recruited by Syracuse, Maryland. Um, I went to visit Virginia Tech, University of North Carolina, Charlotte, Old Dominion. Um, but just decided that Georgetown was a better fit. It allowed my parents to come to the games, um, and kept me close to home. Although it was more like I was away anyway, because just trying to get off campus was a challenge.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep. Wow.
So you get to Georgetown, right?
Mhm.
Did John Thompson, like his size and position and maybe a familiarity with you, or like was there any connection there? Like, hey, a big coach, big guy, understanding of the position. It's almost unusual now to have big guys as coaches because we all know point guards are better coaches. Chuck understands that. We
Yeah.
all
I
understand
would
that,
totally
but
I would totally agree with that.
Well,
Just from the whole
Patrick didn't help us out at all, right? Come on. You
That's
know,
true.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, I think from a guard's perspective, you understand a little bit better about the distribution of the ball. You see things from a different angle, things like that. Definitely, I think that makes a difference.
But
It
was it
seems like,
appealing to play for a fellow big guy or no?
no, I don't think that played into it. It was
Not at
more
all. Hmm.
the familiarity in that I'd gone to the camp for a couple of years. My like I said, my high school coach and coaches both played for him. You know, I think that the thing that I learned or realized after I kind of got a little bit older is that they probably should not have recommended that I go there. Knowing what they knew about me, uh,
Hmm.
they probably would have been better served if they did not recommend me to go there,
Right.
and kind of discouraged Thompson to recruit me. Just
Gotcha.
because it takes a certain mentality to fit into that program,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and I definitely did not have that.
Yeah.
So now that you mentioned it, let's talk about it a minute, okay? He was a tough guy. I mean, he had a certain expression that was his favorite expression. We've talked about it on the show. You know, he just went after people all the time.
Mhm.
What was your relationship like with him? And talk about your experience. And I know you had at least one good buddy on the team. Our good buddy,
Yeah,
Gene Smith. So,
right.
Gene tells me that you guys roomed together, right? Your freshman year.
No, we didn't room together. We actually swapped rooms, uh, swapped roommates my freshman year, but we didn't live together. But we
Okay.
might as well. I guess you could say we lived together because we were always in the hallway outside of our rooms, hanging out, harassing people. Um,
Yeah.
but if you saw one, you saw the other, coming around the
Right.
corner kind of
Right.
thing. So
Right.
that's the way it was with us.
So, and you guys were the same class. So it was,
Yes.
so at least you had a built-in pal that is going to go through the same stuff that you're going to go through. That,
And
I mean, that's
Gene's
always
from that
easier.
area.
My guy was Wyatt Maker. He and I were
Right.
fast friends, and
Mhm.
and we went through everything together.
Right.
The
Well,
good, the bad, and the ugly.
Gene and I were, um, I wouldn't say disruptive, but we were,
I can't
just
imagine
always
Gene
kind of
being
laughing
disruptive.
and joking
First
and
of
things
all,
like that. And
You could say it. It's okay.
yeah, uh, it was probably in Gene's best interest that I left. It probably made life a lot different for him. But I would say that my relationship with all the coaches there was pretty contentious, in the sense that like I said, I just did not have the mentality that was required to fit in, right?
Did
Um,
you and Gene know each
so
other in high scholl? Like, did you guys
no,
play against each
actually,
other?
he went to a high school actually almost 5 or 10 minutes away from where I went to high school, at McKinley Tech.
Yeah.
But we didn't know each other in high school. We met when he went on. We went on a trip to, I think, Vegas, to play in a tournament,
Okay.
all star tournament out there, and
yeah,
we met then. But we didn't really become friends until we got on campus, and just started hanging out and found that we had a lot of the same interests and things like that, and laughing and joking.
Hmm.
That was a big part of it.
yeah. He's such a good guy,
Yeah.
and I mean, I feel whenever I talk to him, I feel like I was teammates with him because
Yeah.
we laugh like 21 year
Yeah.
olds
Feel like
on the
I known him
phone.
forever.
Yeah, like we know him for our whole lives.
Yeah.
So okay, so you get on the Georgetown campus, and you know it didn't have when you leave and didn't have anything to do with this guy Patrick coming in that
No,
plays
not at all. I
plays the
actually
post?
just I decided that I was going to transfer shortly after the second semester started. Um,
Oh wow,
I had a
early
conversation.
into the game, right?
Yeah, I had a conversation with my parents in the car after a game, where I told them that I wanted to transfer out of there, and they like Thompson. They like what he had to say and things like that, and he said the right things to people,
Yeah,
and so that they had a feeling for him. But when I told them that I was transfer, and they were supportive, and they basically said, do what you got to do to be happy, kind of thing, right?
Sometimes it's just not a good fit, right? Right. I mean,
Exactly.
not everybody goes. Listen, it wasn't as easy to transfer back then because you had to sit out, right?
Right.
So that was the first thing. And the second thing is, it's just styles. It doesn't mean that it was good, bad, or indifferent. It just means that it wasn't for you.
Correct.
And that happens, and you don't know that until you get to live with somebody for a little
Yeah.
bit, whether it be
Exactly.
the coach or, the style of play, the school, the teachers, the academia, anything that's going on there. If it don't fit, it don't fit. So I give you credit for making that decision. So now how did you go from there? Because this is the thing that strikes me as odd, a little bit. All right. You going from the Big East to the Big East. And, I thought back then, like, that was a no-no, that you couldn't transfer within the conference. Did you get a hard time, and how did you wind up? Because you didn't mention Providence as some of the schools that recruited you. So how
Well,
does
they
that
did. They did recruit me.
take everybody through the process? Like, how does that happen when you just
Uh,
say, okay, I'm ready to go?
well, Providence did recruit me coming out of high school. I mean, I was
Okay,
recruited, I think, pretty much by everybody in the Big East and the
okay,
ACC and things like that. But how it worked out is so Syracuse recruited me heavily coming out of high school, and University of Maryland. So when I initially announced that I was going to transfer, those were the two schools that I wanted to talk to, right? Um, being 18-year-old person, uh, listening and having respect for people older than you and things like that. I kind of took some advice that probably didn't work out in my best, didn't work out the way that I had planned it to work out. In that, like for instance, I I really wanted to go to Syracuse, so I could have possibly have been your teammate, Sonny.
Yep.
But the I was told when I finally got to Providence the next year, I ran into Coach Fine and Coach um,
Malone.
Malone, yeah.
Hmm.
And we talked in the hallway back, the hallway in the Providence Civic Center, and they were like, "Look, we tried to contact you. We contacted the basketball office as we were instructed. We contacted your high school coach, and no one would put us in contact with you." And I was
wow,
like, "Well, that's interesting."
yeah,
And so they were told that that I wanted to go there, but for whatever reason, they were not able to reach me.
huh,
And so that's what they told me. Um, but how Providence came into play was that Keith Lomax and I went to high school together.
Hmm.
And when we got on the phone, we were pretty tight in high school, and afterwards, and so we got on the phone with each other and talked about where Keith was going to go to school. He said it was either going to be Providence or Seton Hall. And so when when we had the conversation, it was like, well, let's go to Providence. And so because we knew Hawker, um, so it just
yeah,
kind of worked out that way, and that's how we ended up there.
Yeah, and the way it worked out with your redshirt year, that was essentially your freshman year in Providence and Keith's freshman year in Providence, right?
Yes, yes,
Because you guys both graduated in '85, right?
correct.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
See how
So,
things work
but
out.
let me just say one thing though, because you're at Georgetown, you got Ed Spriggs. Now
Right.
you go to Providence, you got Otis Thorpe. So you're not for lack of a competition in your practice format, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I
So what
it,
was it like? Because Otis Thorpe was one of the toughest screen setters that I ever ran into in my
It's like a
life.
wall.
He just was
uh,
built different.
yeah. Well, Ed didn't set tough picks. I mean, he
I
was
didn't hit too
easy to
many Ed's
do.
picks. Let's just say that. I ran into Patrick more than I ran into Ed.
Ed was my roommate on the road, and I always joke with him and say that I feared for my life that he was going to throw me out the window or something. But it was a very stoic and serious guy. He was a little bit older than the rest of us, and so
Hmm.
we had respect for him. Um, he didn't laugh and joke too much with the freshmen, but he saw Gene and I as like, get these guys out of here. but yeah, but playing with I mean, obviously playing with Otis and Ed, they were two totally different types of players. Um, uh, Otis Otis was just like carved out of stone, man. The guy,
Right.
I never saw him lift weights or anything. That guy was just built to play basketball or whatever. Just huge hands,
Huge hands.
just ultra talented. I mean, he started playing basketball late as well, and he just came into the Big East. I remember the freshman year when I was at Georgetown, and it was like, who is this guy?
Right.
Because nobody had ever heard of him, and how do you stop him, kind of thing. And
He
I,
was he
I
fairly
remember
was
he
he
played a
fairly
game at
quiet
the
on the
Garden.
court?
I'm sorry,
Was Otis fairly quiet on the court?
quiet.
Like he wasn't a big trash talker, right? He
No,
wasn't
no.
wasn't into
He
that, right?
hardly said
Just
anything.
He had
that's
no
what I mean.
reason
He
to.
was
Everything that he did was by actually doing the work. He just was a tough guy to play against.
he was like a
You know,
building.
yeah, and
We,
he
we were playing you guys at the Garden, and O comes down and dunks the ball, and his hand is in the rim, and the referee blew the whistle, and he pulled it out of the rim and landed and handed it to the referee. And
oh
we talked about that for 40 years. The
right,
guy. Remember when Otis Thorpe dunked that ball and pulled it back out? Because it was no one's ever seen anybody do that before. It was like he stopped and said, "Okay, here's the ball back,"
yeah.
and it looked like he had a grapefruit in his hand. His hands were so big.
Yes,
You know.
yes. I saw him block people's shots, and basically just pull it off the backboard with one hand, and and
See,
and, and then start the break. And it was like, holy crap!
yeah. So I was told to ask you this. Give us your best Otis Thorpe story while we're talking about O.
I, I can't say that I really have one other than like I said, watching him play. Just the guy did some incredible things. I mean, he improved every year that he played in the Big East. And then when he got to the pros, he continued to improve.
Yeah.
He was just amazing.
He had a great pro career.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we didn't hang out a lot. Those guys, we hung out in different, like there was like, I guess like three main bars that you would hang out in. They lived off campus. Otis, Carl Hill, and like Ricky Tucker. Those guys lived off campus, and they went to a specific bar that they hung out, and it was a different bar than where like uh, Harold Starks and the rest of us kind of hung out in.
Yeah.
So it was we didn't really spend a lot of time off the court except like when you eat and travel and things like that. But so I don't have a lot of stories about Otis, but the guy was just amazing.
I want to ask you when you transferred, right? So that
Mhm.
first year when you're sitting out, because people nowadays they're not going to be familiar with what happens because you can play right away, you portal, right? There's no red shirt, so to speak. What is it like mentally going to practice, doing everything, but you're not traveling with the team? What's the mental challenges that come along with a transfer like that?
It it was tough. Um, like you said, you go to practice, and then you don't go and participate. I mean, I did get to go and sit on the bench and things like that for the home games, but it was definitely I put me behind the eight ball as far as like coming back the next year and being able to play at a competitive level. At least for me. I mean, other people probably had different experiences and things like that, but
Yeah.
for me, I think it's kind of stifled my improvement a little bit, and it took me a while to kind of get back in the right state of mind to play at that level.
Do the coaches kind of recognize that and just give you a little more time or a little more like, hey, your time's coming, your time's coming? Did you have somebody like on the staff that was doing that for you?
No,
No.
it's a lot different. At least for me. It was different back then. Um, I was kind of left alone in a sense. I was obviously had to go to class and things like that, and
Hmm.
show up for practice. But because there was, I, you know, I was not going to play. There was no real need other than to talk to me about those types of things. It seemed like it might be different now,
Hmm.
but back then that was the case for me.
Now you played for Mulaney, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he was tough too. I mean, he's one of the all-time coaches there
Huh?
now.
He was no. It
No,
was diametrically
that's not
opposed.
the impression you got playing against them.
No. He was like practice because practice for us was we never. Let's just say we never ran line drills. We never ran.
Really?
It was only until my junior year or in 1984, the 1983-84 season that we actually started to do um, like
17s and
training and,
suicides.
and doing
Yeah.
things like before the season started. Um,
Wow.
it was I the idea I guess of Coach Hawker and Coach Donlin to basically try to get us in shape before the season started or before practice even started. But the thing is that once practice started after October 15th, we didn't continue to do those things. So we would burn out um, pretty quickly by the time the Big East season rolled around,
Yeah.
and we weren't in shape. So he had a different mentality in that he expected you to play your way in shape, and do the things on your own if you wanted to be in shape, kind of thing.
Right.
Um,
Wow.
but he was not a disciplinarian by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, no, that was not the case. And that's completely the opposite of Thompson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yep.
Wow.
So before we get into your best memories of the Big East tournament and your best memories of some of the guys that you played against, we're going to take a break here to pay some bills with our new sponsor, Third Eye Consulting Property Management Solutions. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Today's episode brought to you by Third Eye Consulting. It's providing innovative property management solutions. Peter Haber, a good friend of Chuck and I's, runs Third Eye Consulting. It's a full-service property and management consulting company. They are a customer service and results-driven company. They work with landlords, investors, and out-of-state homeowners who have tenants. They have a track record of taking underperforming properties, turning them on their heads, and making them profitable for their owners and investors. So look up Third Eye Consulting and give them a call today. Peter Haber, tell them the Big East Rewind sent you.
Okay, and we're back with Ray Knight, and we're just about to get into best Big East tournament memories, Big East memories playing for the Providence Friars. So, who were some of the toughest guys that you had to knock around with out there on the court?
Well, obviously, Patrick was probably
Yeah.
number one. Uh, Bill Winnington. Um, uh, geez, I can go back to like who were the guys at UConn? They had some pretty
Oh,
good
did
big
you
guys at
play against
UConn too.
Carnegie?
That name doesn't
No,
sound
you
familiar.
didn't. You're thinking
Corny.
of Chuck Alexinis and Corny
Yeah, Corny.
Thompson.
Yeah, Corny
Corny
Thompson.
Thompson. I
I
said
think
the
uh,
wrong name.
I think he was
Corny.
probably I think he graduated. Did he graduate in like 81 or
Yeah.
82?
It was early. It was
Yeah,
right
yeah.
at the beginning.
It
Those
was
guys
early.
were some of the first big guys in the
Yeah, Alex
conference.
Sinnis was huge.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even Andre Hawkins,
Mhm.
Hawk was tough.
Yep.
Andre, and you had Pannone. You played against Pannone a couple years.
Yeah, John was tough.
Yep, known. Yep.
He's a banger.
Yep, exactly. And then the guys at BC, they weren't big guys necessarily, but they could play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Raj McCready and some of those guys, Jay Murphy.
Jay
You know,
Murphy, yeah.
they had a pretty good squad.
How about
Playing
And
how
I
at that
about
played,
s-
place
I played
was tough.
huh?
how
I'm sorry.
about style of play? What style of play kind of gave you fits? Because I know Syracuse. I mean, we had a little more of a transition type of game. Boston College was a little more, stationary. However, when Gary Williams got there, it was definitely more up and down the court. Any of those styles that you remember being, particularly challenging for you?
Really, because I was thin, right?
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
anytime you got me on the post, um, dealing with guys with bigger bodies that were stronger was always a
Hmm.
challenge. Being agile, I was definitely agile. Could run. I would have been better served, in a situation where we ran, um, and probably given me more opportunities to face up than to be with my back to the basket, just
You'd
so
have
that I
been a
could.
good fit at Syracuse. I'm gonna tell you right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I have a story about that when I went to Yugoslavia with and coach was he was the coach. Behan was the coach, and that was probably one of the best experiences that I had playing for him.
Oh, no
Um,
kidding. Who went with you on that trip? You remember?
um,
Did Raphael Addison?
yeah, Raphael Addison,
Probably
That was
Wendell.
the
No.
team with
uh,
Sean, right? Sean Kern.
Hawk was on the team. Um, who else was there? Victor. Um, what's Victor's last name from Georgetown and Wingate?
Oh,
Oh,
David.
Dave.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Yeah. Geez, who else? Can't remember the other folks that were there.
Andre McLeod from Seton Hall. Did he go?
No, McLeod. He wasn't there. You know what? He's from DC, and we always talk about how he's basically disappeared from around here. Um, he's definitely a good guy.
Yeah,
But
he's
yeah.
down in Florida. He's been on the show, Ray.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he
really?
was a good guess. Yeah.
We had Dre on with Ricky Burton.
Oh,
So we
wow.
had
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
two of them were cutting up
Wow.
pretty good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun.
But yeah. That trip was that was a great trip going to Yugoslavia and
Yep.
playing for Bayheim. Yep.
So what is that now? So talk about that for a second, because now you talked about style. Sonny brought up different styles of play. And sometimes certain styles don't fit certain players.
Right.
What was it about the way Boeheim coached you that you enjoyed more so than you know, either Thompson or Mulaney?
I- well, I'm not someone that deals with people yelling at me very
Okay.
well. I would much rather be spoken to in a and instructed in a different manner. I think I can accept that a little bit better. Um, so I don't know how Boeheim was, as far as like coaching you guys during the season, but I don't recall him being, the type of person that would yell, but he knew how to motivate, obviously. Um, but just, I don't know. It was just for whatever reason the way that we played. And we didn't do a lot of practicing, but for some reason, it was just a good experience for me playing for him.
Yeah,
Hey,
let me ask you this too about now we get into the Big East tournament. We've had a lot of guys on, and everybody's got um, their versions of what that was like walking the streets of Manhattan and going into the Garden to play the tournament. Talk about what that was like for you. I mean, that to unless you've experienced that, it's hard to describe to people the buzz around the city when those 4 or 5 days of that tournament.
well, I'd like to say that, well, obviously at Georgetown, right? We didn't get a lot, excuse me, get a lot of opportunities to do those types of things and participate,
Right.
at, and at the level that you guys did. Um, and if I remember my freshman that year at Georgetown, by the time I was so ready for the season to be over with, so that I could move on to the next thing. I don't really remember what it was like. But when at Providence, we were always at the bottom of the bunch, playing in that
Yeah.
consolation game, and a lot of times we never made it out of that, or if we did, we were eliminated immediately. So I didn't get a lot of opportunity to spend time, experiencing that. So we would basically head back up to Rhode Island after we lost, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, the few days that we were there, obviously, like you said, being in there with the New York experience, and just all the excitement, and walking into the garden and things like that, that was awesome.
Do you
Um,
remember the Big East luncheon dinner that we used to do?
yeah, vaguely, being
They
there with
they
all
mixed us
everybody.
all up. We all
Yep,
sat at different table.
right. Uh, I don't. I guess. Yeah, I guess I guess I remember that, but I guess it didn't really put an impression on me that I can recall. But yeah, I mean, it was nice to meet all the guys. That was a great thing about Yugoslavia, is that you got to meet everybody,
Yeah.
and realize that they are not your enemy. That these are just guys that play basketball just like you, and you
Yeah,
could
you could
have
host a
conversations.
podcast.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
That's right.
And what so it gave you the opportunity to see those types of things, and that which is always good.
Talk about the cultures now, the difference in the cultures between Georgetown and Providence. Now, Providence, we talked before the show, and you were part of that event that they had about a year and a half or 2 years ago. Harold Starks was integral in putting together with Coach Cooley at the time, which ironically now he's at Georgetown, you
Right.
know. But talk about the alumni that came back, and it looked at least from our vantage point, it appears that they really embraced the guys that played there. Is it still that way? I mean, do you go back to games? Do you get out there much? And talk about that event in particular, because they had all the coaches there who were around. And Barnes, I guess, had COVID, and he was on a big screen. He was doing a Zoom call with everybody at the time.
Yeah, he
It,
had
it
COVID.
sounded
Yeah.
like a pretty good time to celebrate with all your past and current players.
Yeah. So that weekend, w- working in football, um, that's when we had that event, which was actually last year. It's right at the beginning of the season, or the right at the beginning of preseason, and so it's kind of a challenge for me to get away to get up there. So I got there uh, late on Friday, um, and only really stayed until Sunday morning. Um, so I didn't get to participate in a lot of the events. I did go on the boat ride, but I think by that time, like, all the coaches that were there, that came back, they went off and did their own thing. So I didn't get a chance to see all of that. I did get the opportunity, like I said, to be on the boat and hang out with, like, a lot of the older former players, and the boosters, and people who've been there forever, rooting for the team. But it is great that they bring back bring back everybody, year in and year out, and try to keep that camaraderie, and just have the support of the former players around, talking to the young kids, and
Yeah.
being involved in the program. Um,
Yeah.
I have not. I honestly, I haven't been up there. I went back. I think it was 2009, and hung out for a little, like, basketball reunion.
Yeah.
Played a little bit of golf, and you know went out to dinner a couple times. But the only other time was last year, for me, as far as going
Do
back.
they? I mean, do they open the doors to you for games? I mean, do you get tickets if you want to go to a game? Do you? Is it
I,
is it like that, or is it?
I believe
If you
so.
show up, you show up.
Yeah, I think they're, try to get people involved, and give them tickets and things like that. I guess if you call, like, Harold, or since he works in the athletic department now, he could probably arrange for those types of things. But I've never, like I said, I haven't been up for a game. I went to a game here a few years ago, when Providence came down to play GW. At the time, I was working at GW. But that's pretty much, I think, the only game.
Yeah.
Maybe I've been to like, um, maybe I've been to a couple other games. I can't remember though. I think
Yeah.
I went to a Georgetown game
Hmm.
with a guy that was a freshman with me, who is a big booster, Georgetown booster. But that I haven't been to a lot of games, to be honest.
So, so
So
you
you,
just mentioned, hang on, son. So you just
Mhm.
mentioned the Georgetown thing again, all right?
Mm,
One question I wanted to ask you, because this intrigued me. You leave Georgetown and you go to a rival team. Well, maybe not a rival back then, but another team in the conference.
right.
So what was that like for you now when you have to suit up and play against your old team?
It was like pretty much, you they're your friends. You want to
Was there a
beat them.
little?
Yeah.
There had to be some extra incentive, Ray. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you had,
absolutely. You want to beat them so you
you
can
wouldn't
have
be
the bragging
human if
right.
it wasn't any extra incentive for you to go out and have a good game if you got in, or
Yeah.
whatever time you got or whatever. But I mean, were you treated any differently when you guys went? Did you play them at Georgetown? Or did you play them at the Cap Center when you went?
Played them at the Cap Center. I think by the time Patrick got there,
Yeah, every
I
game was
think
at the
that's when
Cap
they moved off campus to the Cap Center.
Right,
Um,
right.
so that would have been, yeah,
Did you
his
catch
freshman
any
year.
grief from anybody? Did the fans give you a hard time?
No, I was insignificant. I didn't. There was no reason for anything like that to happen. I think. I played, got a little bit of playing time my freshman year, but not enough to be, where where people would, see me as like a traitor or something like that and want to give
Right,
me
right.
a hard time about it. But yeah, no, and then they were all my buddies, so going back and playing against them was like kind of like going home almost in a way. But you still, like you're competitive, and so you want to beat the heck out of them, right?
Yeah.
And come out with the win. But in that wasn't the case. But you know,
Mhm.
It's
But
amazing how different the times are. Can you imagine if they had the social media presence that people have now back then?
oh yeah,
I mean, that would have been crazy, especially how amped up it got. When they come in, when you guys come into the Palestra, both of you guys, when you come in, that's Sonny's favorite gym, the Palestra. So when you guys come into the Palestra, they had the signs rolling out, they
right,
had all kinds of stuff, and it was made famous in that the Requiem for the Big East. The things with Patrick and some of the things that were said, and it's just it's embarrassing being a Philadelphia guy and a Villanova guy that's not how we do things. But
right, right.
at that time people lost control of themselves. I was just wondering if you had any kind of um, not anything racially or anything, but just like just any kind of people giving you the business a little bit because you're coming from another school again in the conference. Because
No,
I
no,
really, I
not
really, I don't know why, Ray, but I really thought that it was a tough thing to do within the conference. Like that didn't come up when you left and went to Providence. It didn't come up that like an unwritten rule that you can't transfer within the conference, and no, nothing,
no,
right?
nothing, never.
Wow,
Um,
I think
yeah,
that came later. I think they made it a 2-year set if you stayed in the conference. I think
that's
that
what I
came up
thought.
later.
Yeah,
yeah. I think for some reason I don't know whether I heard this or whether I just kind of made it up, but I think like I was one of the last people to actually transfer in a interconference anywhere.
yeah,
And then the rule came about at some point where you couldn't do that. And
right.
then I think later on maybe it was like the 2-year thing like you're saying, Sonny.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
if you think about it, it's a good rule. You don't want somebody poaching people from other teams in the
Hmm.
conference and depleting one team and building up another team by
Hmm.
taking their best players or whatever. So
Yeah,
I,
true,
it's
true.
interesting.
I wanted to ask you about one of your teammates that now it seems to make more sense. Billy Donovan, you played 2 years with Billy,
Right.
and that transformation he made, his physical sense when Rick Pitino came in, now makes a lot more sense given what you described. My question is, when you played with Billy, did you see anything in him? Did you see like this kid could be special? He had a little something different. Anything?
I know that he was an absolute gym rat. I mean, the guy was always in the gym working on his game. Shooting obviously was is a big part of what he did. And he that manifest when he got Patino and got in shape, and it just all the time that he spent in the gym started to pay off, kind of thing. And then Patino obviously got him a lot more disciplined, and it just worked out for him very well. But yeah, I mean, he definitely had skills and talent. I mean, the guy could pass, could dribble, um, you know, um, make plays and things like that. But Patino made a world of difference for him. But Mulaney, as nice of a guy as he was, and with all of his history and accolades that he had from, coaching Providence back in the '60s, and then going into the pros and overseas and doing a lot of great things. I think by the time he came back to Providence, or even to Brown, probably before he came back to Providence, it seemed to me like the game had kind of passed him by. And like some of the things that we did. I mean, I know you guys used to laugh and joke about, like the weave, the thing that we used to, the play we used to run that worked in the '60s, but just couldn't work in the '80s because people were so much more athletic and agile. You guys would cut that play off, but that was the thing that worked for him.
Do you stay
And
in touch with? Do you stay in touch with Billy at all?
no, no, no. I saw him at the event last year, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was there. Every they had everybody back. I mean,
Yeah.
and you know what was wild about that was I never realized how rich the basketball history was at Providence.
Right.
I mean,
Oh
man,
yeah.
I mean, it was like a who's who there. It was great to
Yep.
see. And
Yep.
I hope Georgetown, I hope Ed Cooley kind of brings that to Georgetown, because if there was ever a team that had history and
Oh yeah.
and I mean, I think they had some really great, like, four Hall of Famers that I know of off the top of my head, and
Right.
I think that would be fantastic if they did that.
I mean,
Do
I'm
you?
I'm sure you've had conversations with Gene and Reggie, and
Yeah,
and
and Mike,
how it was, how
sure,
and it's pretty much been the case all excuse me, all the way up until now that Cooley's there. And
yeah,
it seems to me like he's going to try to change that whole deal and try to get people to come back around, and be more involved, which is going to help the program. Um,
of course,
so
yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm thinking about going up to the Providence Georgetown game this year,
Oh, you
because
got it. You
that's going
got
to
to go to
be
that one, man.
incredible. I
I
tell
mean,
you.
that's going to be the hottest ticket of the season.
Yeah.
That's
Do
going
Do
to
you
be,
know Coach English? Do you know Kim English at all?
No, I don't.
yeah,
I didn't get a
Yeah.
chance to go up this year, so I didn't get a chance to meet him. But
A
everyone
lot of
seems to say
excitement.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, a
they
lot of
say good
excitement.
things.
Different. It's going to be a little different
they
feel,
played
and
pretty well too the other
yeah,
night. They look pretty good. I mean,
they're going to be all right.
I think they're going to surprise some people once they get it a little bit.
Mhm.
Do you follow the current league and the current situation in the Big East now?
I do not. I kind of stopped watching basketball for a couple of different reasons. I tend to watch the things that I play. So, like in the '90s, I played a lot of golf, so I watched a lot of golf.
Right.
I watched basketball, like the pros, when guys that I know were playing and things like that. So like
Hmm.
I would say that I pretty much stopped watching basketball in the early 2000s. I think Otis was probably one of the final guys that I knew to retire when he was, I guess I think he retired when he was with the Wizards, or slightly after that. But at any rate,
Yeah.
I kind of don't watch basketball, and now I
Yeah.
play a lot of tennis, so I watch tennis all the time.
Oh wow.
So I can't say what's going on in basketball or the Big East at all. I don't know any of the players or anything like that, and it's a different game than when when we played.
Yeah.
And so it's just I don't know, just don't really have any interest in
Well, put
watching.
it this way: you're not getting the ball in the post as much. That's for sure. I'll
Right,
tell you
right.
that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, it's
better
a
be able to
different game.
shoot it from deep.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Yep.
So, well, before we leave, I want to wrap up with one thing. Tell everybody what you're doing now with yourself, Ray, and what's going on with you personally.
Well, I guess I'd say I've had two careers since graduating. I worked in the securities industry for the from a regulatory perspective, working for the what is called FINRA now. As a financial analyst, I was a finance major at Providence, so I was able to use that to get a career going in the field that I wanted to work in. But while I was working as a financial analyst, I had kind of developed some IT skills, and at some point was able to transition over to working in IT. So I've done that for probably the last 25 years, working as a network engineer for various companies like a couple of universities, Geico, Sirius XM, Washington Post.
Yeah.
And now I currently work for the Washington Commanders as the principal network engineer for the team.
Oh,
And what that entails is basically running the network for the stadium as well as the corporate side of things.
that's
Uh,
big time.
Yeah, that's good time. That's
That's a
good
lot
stuff.
of pressure.
And that's where Reggie and I ran into you. And
yeah,
next thing you know, we created quite the buzz in the as we were walking around. So,
yeah,
well, Ray, hey, it was so much fun catching up with you. I appreciate you coming out,
Yes,
man, and
thank you.
spending the night with
Thank you.
us and
thank you.
hanging with us. And in perspective is unique because there isn't anybody that can talk about two different teams in the same conference like that. And stark differences on both sides.
Yeah, in
It's
the same era too.
interesting
Yeah,
take on that. I enjoyed
yeah,
listening to that, man. So
yeah.
thank you.
There's obviously some conversations that can be had on air, and then there's the
I
ones
get
that
it.
you got to
I
keep
get
off
it.
air. But yeah, definitely,
I get it.
there's
And
some
we stayed away
differences.
from those. We
Yeah,
did a good job with that.
yeah,
So I get it. And I respect that too. And that's what it's all about here. We're not the guys digging for dirt. We're not the guys arguing with people.
exactly.
We're nostalgic, fun. Sonny's a ball of laughs. Just look, he's always making people laugh. Just by being his normal jovial self every day. So
He
it's
posts
an
a
honor
lot
to
of
be with him.
inspirational thoughts and messages and things like that on Facebook that I always look at, and it's always good to
Yeah.
see that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, we try to
Thank
keep
you.
everybody up on what's going on. So
Yeah,
we kind of look at it like we're sort of the historians of the conference now. That's the
it,
right, son. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way we. So,
that's
but
awesome.
anyway, hey, well, thanks again, man. We
Thank you.
appreciate you coming out and hanging with us. Hang out for a few minutes, and we'll talk to you in a minute. We
Okay,
got to
sounds good.
take care of some business here first. And you've been listening to and watching the Big East Rewind with Sonny Sparrow and Chuck Everson. The Big East Rewind was produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus, Daryl Gurney, and our friends at Boundless Ventures. You can see us on all things social media by hitting Big East Rewind in the search bar, and all of our stuff will come up. And our website is due out very, very soon. You'll be able to find us on www.bigeastrewind.com and wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. We ask you to like, subscribe, share, and don't forget to hit that bell so you get notified when the new shows drop. All right? Thanks a lot for joining us. Have a great night. We'll see you next Wednesday with another new show.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody. Thanks, Ray.